Hello, everybody, and welcome back once more to Anime Yay or Nay. I am TheOutbackAl.
I'm Chibi Noob.
I'm Envy Jitters.
I'm CheerandCosplay.
And I'm Kozi.
And we're back with a little bit more Steven Spielberg month. Running on down the line, we're running chronologically from everything. What have we done so far? We've done Tiny Toons, we've done Animaniacs, we've done Pinky and the Brain. We gotta do that other one that not everybody talks about. Freakazoid. My personal favorite here. And, I've seen this. I feel like we've talked about no one else has seen this but me, except maybe Kozi. Kozi, you haven't been here for the last couple weeks. You seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it. I saw it really briefly, in between when I was younger, and it was nightmare fuel. And then I watched it when I got a bit older, and I could actually understand it more.
No, yeah.
But he scared the fuck out of me as a tiny child.
Oh.
Makes sense.
That makes me sad a little bit. I enjoyed him as a child.
I thought he was the villain.
I mean, in a weird sense, kind of, depending on whose perspective you're going from, but yeah.
I mean, he kind of reminded me of Pajama Sam.
Yeah, I didn't do those ones as a kid.
Me either. I was a pop-up girl.
He was very much a chaotic force.
Yeah.
To put it mildly.
Yep. So did anyone like this out the gate? I was a little concerned.
I mean, I will say, it's nice to know that there's alternate variants of Danny Phantom going around, because that's where...
I know! It's the same voice actor!
At least when he's Dexter.
Yeah.
Well, what was your guys' initial thoughts on this?
At first, I was cringing very, very hard, but then the more it got on, and the more the episodes, I don't want to say had focus, but I guess had some semblance of stories and plots, the more I kind of got into it more. I can tell it's still from the same brainchild as all these shows, because there is the main focus of the show, Freakazoid, but then there's other side segments that the other shows did. So, you're right, it is a progression from the other three shows. I would say it's my least favorite out of the four, but I didn't hate it. I did mostly enjoy it by the end. I could totally see why you like it, Al, because I know you personally, and I know your type of humor and your types of sketch comedy. But for me, this was kind of fun, but a little brain rotty at the same time.
I don't like that description, but okay.
So, I would say the episode list that you gave us put it off to a bit of a rocky start, at least for me, because there was a lot of shouting in that first episode, and I was like, is this what the rest of it's gonna be like? While I was watching it, it didn't go on like that for a lot of it. But again, I agree with Envy. I can see where your sense of humor kind of comes in with this one, because it is tongue-in-cheek in a way that I feel like the other cartoons in this lineup that we watched were not. And I guess for me, the humor just doesn't really stand out that well. And while I do understand what jokes were being told, they weren't really landing for me, and maybe it's just the sort of situational humor it was doing, but that's just me.
I mean, my initial thought was, oh hey, I know this clip.
That's so very, very sad.
I've seen that on Tumblr many times.
The mom's kind of funny.
Yeah. I was
mom.
gonna say, I think the mom was the one that had me laughing the most.
Have a good time now.
You're allergic to sheet cakes?
Just the pan. Have a good time now.
I expected to like this more. The show was not really what I thought it was gonna be. I think I was expecting more like Danny Phantom, but if he was the mask, I guess.
Ooh.
That kind of is what it is.
I feel like it's just the episode selection, but it didn't have it felt way more like Animaniacs than like Danny Phantom. It was a little manic. It was a bunch of short sketches. There was a ton of other superheroes. I didn't know they were coming into this.
Yeah.
Threw me off a little.
I don't know. Do you guys want me to give you a little bit of history about this show?
It's your history with it, or the production?
Well, my history of it was pretty simple. I watched it. I don't think I was able to catch it on Kids WB as much. I probably did a little bit, but I definitely watched it a lot more on Cartoon Network whenever the second season and the reruns started going on there a little bit. I definitely did not watch this as much as Animaniacs, because I just don't think they showed it as often. It was not something that producers really liked at the end of the day.
It was designated to late night.
No, it was
Yeah.
designated to 7 a.m. when the second season put it on Cartoon Network.
Mm.
Which is kind of worse than late night. At least some people are up for late night. I don't know what kid was going to wake up at 7 a.m. to watch this.
The kids that were waiting for the bus.
Yeah, but they're out waiting for the bus.
No, I was
Yeah.
inside watching TV.
Well, not
waiting for the
everybody
bus.
gets to have a bus stop right outside their door. So some of us got to walk up and down a hill both ways.
Yeah, also, like, 7 a.m., my school was already in session.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Also, like, I might have mentioned my very limited TV time before, but my TV hours were 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. So, like, if you wanted to watch cartoons, you got up at 7.
Eh. Yeah.
So, there are a lot more references in this than I remember there being. Still can definitely see why it freaked me out as a tiny child. And for some insanely odd reason, like, this is giving me, like, Inspector Gadget on crack vibes.
Ooh, a
Give me a
little
little
bit.
more Monty Python, at least for the first season, but that's just me. This was actually originally supposed to be made by Bruce Timm and Paul Dini. I know Paul Dini stuck around to do a lot of the writing and stuff. Bruce Timm did a lot of the character designs, but he was like, this was, I think post-Batman, they were working on Superman and then moving on to Batman Beyond pretty soon, but this was kind of like an in-between project that they were going to do. I think there was a disagreement between Bruce Timm and Steven Spielberg, because Bruce Timm was like, I want to make a superhero show, and Steven Spielberg was like, no, we want to do a comedy like Animaniacs and everything. They were kind of like, yeah, I don't think that's going to work for the two of us together. So Freakazoid's voice actor actually became one of the main producers of it, along with Tom Ruger, who was here from a lot of the other shows. So shows like Animaniacs had about 2 years of production before they went to air, so they had a lot of time to figure out what they were going to be. This had about 8 months. So they were basically just writing anything you can think of that has anything to do with like a funny superhero idea, just put it together and we'll figure it out later. Like, they didn't even have an origin story by the time this, like, they had a couple episodes written, which is why I forget if it's I think The Chip, that little double feature where we find out his origin story. That's like episodes like either 5 or 7 or something. It's like halfway through their first season. No one has no idea, which was kind of a thing for a lot of the show. They just did not know what they wanted to do, so they just threw everything at the wall, see what stuck.
I still can't believe they got freaking Khan as one of the villains.
Round the moons of Snibia, I chuckle at thee. Beyond the Corpian clouds, I chuckle more at thee. Revenge is a dish best served with pinto beans and muffins. Kirk, old friend, Oh, sorry.
For multiple episodes. And what about that Tim Curry?
Yes.
I mean, Tim Curry was prevalent in the 90s. Like, he was everywhere, but
Yeah, fair.
just the fact, like, I was hearing his voice. I'm thinking, is that the grandpa from Spy Kids? Is that Ricardo Montalban? I looked it up. It's like, son of a bitch, that actually is
I
him.
was going to say Senior from Kim Possible. Whatever, but whatever. To each their own.
Wait, that was him?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, a couple other people. You got Carl from Up playing Cosgrove. Fantastic
Ed Asner, yeah.
performance. And my favorite late night show host is his mentor, Craig Ferguson. So, yeah, I kind of love all this show. It is so weird and fun and bizarre. And but that's why, I don't know if you guys noticed there was a bit of a difference between the last 2 episodes and most of the episodes I gave you were from season 1, where it was very sketchy and like Animaniacs like. For the second season, I think the producers were like, okay, make half-hour stories. Because I think the consensus was like, well, if they have a half-hour story, they have to have a plot. They'll stop doing a bunch of like stupid shit. And instead they were like, well, we're just going to keep doing stupid shit. We're just going to make it longer. So I think from what I've heard online, this whole show was basically whatever made the writer. They didn't give a shit about anything. They were like, whatever made the writers laugh, they were just going to put in. Which I really got to respect. Like,
real ghost stories of animation here.
I mean, I've looked up some stuff about this. I've watched some things on it because I really enjoy it. It's, if you couldn't tell that this informed my sense of humor as a child. But like, what other show is gonna take a whole 5-minute sequence and blow their animation budget on a Hello Dolly parody musical number?
Yeah.
Like, I kind of gotta respect that. This was made for somebody. Not everybody, but somebody, and somebody loved it.
Or the whole
So-
sequence where it was, what was it called? Relaxovision or something.
I probably blew the animation budget for the whole season on that one fight.
Like that
Oh,
to make
yeah.
you,
yeah.
to make you calm, and so they cut the action scenes.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, no, I love that kind of stuff.
I would definitely say I think that this definitely had like an audience. I don't think when they put the show to air, I don't think that their target audience was the audience that was the demographic for it.
Honestly, yeah.
Because it wasn't it like older kids and teens who were watching this? And it was put on a block for like younger kids?
It was.
A little bit?
I think it was similar to like, because like Tiny Toons, I feel like is very much for kids, and Animaniacs is like for kids and adults, and Pinky and the Brain is also like kids and adults, maybe even leaning a little bit more towards adults with some of the like parodies and stuff that they do. This very much was not like kids kind of stuff. I mean, they'd probably get a kick out of like the violence and slapstick, but like most of those references are gonna be like, what are you even? Who is Marty Engels to you?
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Marty Engel.
Hiya, folks!
That doesn't mean anything. Yeah, so weirdly enough, this feels like an Adult Swim show in
It
a
does.
weird way, but like definitely not as crass as an Adult Swim show would be.
Honestly, when you mentioned this show, I thought it was... I remember it vaguely from my childhood, but having not watched a lot of it, I assumed it was something that was on Adult Swim, just from the vibes of what I remembered seeing. Just because it didn't seem like a show for someone my age
Yeah,
when it was, like, on Cartoon Network.
I gotta tell you, the 90s were kind of a wild, wild west of a lot of things. Like,
Oh, I know.
You look at
I
any-
know. I remember watching some of the cartoons that came out in the 90s when I was a child.
I kind of mean any section of entertainment. You can look at music or movies, TV, or like anything, books, and a ton of stuff. It was like anything could happen. It was weird.
I've seen someone describe it as the sense, it was kind of weird. Video games, you had the infamous, Mortal Kombat that caused the video game just to be ranked, but like everything else, it almost felt like the censors were coming loose and you could just get away with more and more stuff, and so they were
Little
just trying to
bit.
push the limits.
A little bit. There was one, I kind of wish I had included it, where a network censor is actually a character in the show saying what they're allowed to do and not allowed to do, and, it eventually ends with Freakazoid dropping an anvil on her. But yeah. It's weird because she's an old lady who's also voiced by Freakazoid, so I don't know. It's fun. I'm trying to think of, like, overall... I feel like we got a good look at all the
He
villains.
gives schizo energy, actually.
I mean, if you had all of the 90s internet pumped into your brain, I'd imagine you'd be the same way. Weirdly enough, he kind of has the same origin story as Ultron. He saw the internet for 5 seconds and decided that humanity should not live. It's like, what was that? Wait, what was that thing that I sent you guys? The two different philosophies, same idea, different vibe?
What, nihilism and...
Yeah, nihilism and absurdism. Ultron's the nihilism, like...
Life is pointless. There's no meaning in anything.
And Freakazoid's like...
Life is pointless and there's no meaning in anything.
No, that's just the difference between millennials and Gen Z.
Yeah,
A little bit.
A little bit.
Honestly, he also gives a little bit of ADHD energy.
Oh,
A little
100%.
bit.
Oh,
Mostly
no?
just... I mean, bouncing
Again.
off the walls.
Why do you think I identified with this guy?
I honestly, and I can say the same about a lot of the other stuff from Spielberg, like, it is so hard to identify this with him.
Mm-hmm. It's weird, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those things of, like, he's the executive producer. He's involved with, like, the creation of it and at the very least, the early stuff. I do wonder how often he had, like, a hand in the day-to-day stuff. Because he's Steven Spielberg in the 90s. I mean, that was, like, when he was making some of his biggest stuff. I don't know. I mean, to a lot of degree, I feel like the Tom Ruegger element is kind of the through line through all of this.
I feel like the Tom Ruegger line through all of it didn't really show quite as much in this one compared to the others, I think, though.
Should we go back to my little thing about, like, this is the logical conclusion to the humor style?
I mean, I guess it depends on whether the humor style really lands with you, I guess.
True, but you can kind of see what I'm saying with, like, how they were taking, like, the older style, like, slapstick, Looney Tunes type stuff in Tiny Toons, and then they kind of adjusted it a little bit more for modern audiences in, like, Animaniacs, and they made more references and things like that, and then it went to Pinky and the Brain, and it kind of pushed that a little bit further, and now it is, I don't want to call it brain rot, because that feels like an insult, and I like this thing, but it is also kind of like, these are references for reference sake, but you're having fun with it, I guess. And it's just, it's an absurdist, surreal kind of show.
It was very retention focused. Like,
Yeah.
not only were they trying to build a new audience with the younger stuff, they were trying to hold the audience they had already gained.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe it worked to keep that audience, but I'm not really sure that this was necessarily a step in a direction to gain more of an audience.
Well, I'm not sure why they felt the need for this necessarily, because when you look at WB, like, they had the older audience shows.
True.
I think that's probably why they originally wanted Bruce Timm and Paul Dini creating this, because they had already done Batman and Superman at that point, so they had kind of had that, which are kid-friendly, but they do kind of hit on larger themes and a lot of stuff that adults can connect with as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably why they originally wanted them there. But one of them wanted to make a straight superhero show, and one of them wanted to be like, no, make it a pure comedy, and it was like, well, one of these is not going to coincide with one another.
I think they just turned the dial a little too far. Maybe?
It's probably why it didn't last nearly as long as the other shows did. This thing only had 24 episodes.
I mean, I feel like, and I'm going based off of the Wikipedia article on Freakazoid, there were multiple factors with why it didn't get proper audience engagement, which honestly really sucks for this show, because I feel like had it, been aired at a time and, like, had its target audience, like, well, not even its target audience, but, like, an audience that would truly appreciate it met, I feel like this show could have done a lot better. Also, like, depending on whether or not they were going for, like, certain kinds of censors, depending on, like, what the demographic was they were going for, again, they could have done way more with this concept and this character and this idea. But that's just me.
I feel like this kind of came out around the time where a lot of parents were, like, in their initial, like, Satanism freak out, where they were really restricting what their children watched. Because, like, Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh! were ramping up around this time.
No, Yu-Gi-Oh! Wasn't for a few more years. Pokemon came out right at the tail end of Freakazoid's run.
But, like, I'm just saying, like, those are, like, the big no-nos I know. But, like, there was also definitely a lot of other stuff that parents were limiting their children from watching.
There was kind of a holdover from the 80s satanic panic, I know that much.
Yeah, with Dungeons and Dragons and
like,
punk music.
This definitely feels like something a parent would catch one episode of, like maybe even just 5 seconds of that episode, and it would be like, absolutely the fuck not, turn that shit off.
No, I hear you. Like, my parents saw me watch Family Guy once, and they were like, don't watch that again. And I was like, I'm 15. Who gives a shit? I didn't say those words to them, because I was 15, but yeah. I mean, I think there's could be a number of factors here why this didn't work out so well. I kind of think, to a large degree, if you want to compare it to some of the other shows that there were, I would say probably giving it a little bit more time to cook before you put it out there probably could have helped a little bit.
Sure.
Like, animation is a very intense, like, thing to make. And you're like, you have less than a year to put this out. Like, that's a lot.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. They kind of switched up the format between the seasons. Did you guys think that it would have worked a little bit better as a full half-hour show as opposed to a bunch of sketches?
Honestly, given the kind of humor they were going with, I don't think I could have stood more than just sketches. to be honest.
So you didn't like the Dexter's Date one or the Isle of Dr. Mystico?
Yes, your mommy makes your reservation. She says you're having a big fancy first date.
Have a good time now.
I can only take so much of one character doing a lot of nonsense.
I feel like you're the wrong person for me to ask because I knew you weren't going to enjoy this week.
I don't think they had enough, like, meat and potatoes to, like, the story element.
True.
For it to really justify a half-hour slot.
Yeah.
Of, like, just one episode.
I think it worked when they were doing it with Gutierrez. But to be fair, I feel like he brought a little bit more as a villain in those episodes. Some of the other villains, we got to them a little bit, but not all of them. I know some of them showed up later. They were very, like, short, one-note kind of villains for the most part. They serve their purpose pretty well, though. I do enjoy them here and there. Loeb, I think, is his most recurring villain, and I think he does work.
No, I enjoyed him. I thought he was funny.
I figured you would
and
like
a little
him.
silly.
I will admit, though, I mean, we didn't miss the episodes where all the villains were introduced, minus the cave guy. So, like, Loeb just showed up in some episodes. And
in fairness, they really don't get intros that often. You are just kind of thrown in. And it was similar to a lot of other elements of the show, just see what sticks. They had things with, like, the Freakmobile, things with... You guys didn't see the Freak-a-Lair, which is, like, his Batcave thing. And even he's kind of going like, wait, where did you get this? Oh, like 2 episodes ago. We're just kind of seeing what works, and this kind of, I guess, went over well with the study groups or whatever. But Chibi, I kind of figured you were going to like the Loeb, because, like, I think the first thing we saw of him in this slot of episodes was literally him just going,
Oh, just stop. What? This is stupid.
Like, Chibi's going to love this guy.
Part of it is definitely, like, a little bit of the accent. I feel like he's a fun villain to have on screen. I don't know. I enjoyed his presence, at least.
Yeah. That was David Warner.
Okay.
Who...
His voice sounded familiar.
I'm looking for you, because it's probably... I mean, he's been in a lot of... He's been in some Star Trek stuff, Time Bandits, a couple of The Omen, Titanic.
Okay.
Kind of all over the place. He's got, like, some BAFTAs.
Okay.
Like, they actually got, like, genuinely, like, celebrated actors to portray some of these characters.
Oh, wait. He looks very familiar.
Tron.
Hang on. Oh, he was in Twin Peaks.
Well, there you go.
Gargoyles.
Yeah, did anyone else see the Batman and Gargoyles references?
A little bit, yeah.
Like, I expected them to get away with a Batman reference since they're from the same company, but Gargoyles was Disney. They were kind of poking fun there a little bit. That was good for them.
Spielberg had a lot of contention with Disney, too.
That's true. That's true. I do like, and I know this is so stupid because it's just a thing for me, I do like that they actually got, for some reason, the head of the Motion Picture Association.
Ladies and gentlemen, the president of the Motion Picture Association of America, Mr. Jack Valenti.
Hello, I'm Jack Valenti, and these are my cheeks.
To just explain the rating system in the middle of an episode.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. There was a lot of jokes I thought worked, and I had a lot of fun with. But then there was some other... Well, here's the thing. There was some times where I thought the joke was bad, but then they kept going on with it. And for me, the more I saw the joke, I was like, okay, you're going all the way with this. Like, the hand puppet thing, or the hand sidekick. Yeah. Like, at first, that whole sequence in the warehouse, I was like, where is this going? And then they kept going. He gets married to his other hand, and then he officiates the wedding, and then they actually insinuate they're about to have sex. And I'm thinking,
no,
they got away with this.
Insinuate nothing. They were straight up doing it. I was actually really surprised that scene got past the censors.
And then they show his feet as another couple that bicker. It's like the joke didn't work at first, but they kept going and going with it to the point where it's like, okay, I got to give them props. They did an entire sketch around this.
Like, that's kind of what I mean when I say it. Like, it reminds me a lot of, like, the absurdist humor in Monty Python. I feel like a lot of Monty Python sketches, especially back in the day with, like, Flying Circus and that, a lot of sketches started out with, like, I have no idea where this is going. And, like, you might still not know where any of it's going in the middle of it, but, like, it's going somewhere. To be fair, not all of them did go places, but, hey, a lot of them did. And, yeah. Not so much here, I guess. probably why they didn't get as much traction.
I will give it this. I think if they reworked it a little bit, that if it released today, it could see a lot more success than it did with its original run.
Yeah.
Like, completely disregarding, like, it being more accessible because the internet and being time-slotted wouldn't really affect it.
Yeah.
Like, I think, like, rebranding it as, like, look at it, this is, like, the ADHD superhero, could actually see a lot of success.
Honestly, I'd agree with that statement.
Unfortunately, the position of that has gone to Teen Titans Go, so.
Which
Freakazoid had a cameo in.
He did, and also so did the Lobe, apparently.
Well, yeah, they were in the same
Lobe
episode.
had a cameo.
The brain pulls the Lobe out of the old 90s Warner Brothers tins, and they're like, well, we need a superhero from the 90s. How about Batman Beyond? Oh, that's too dark. How about Road Rovers, which was also a Tom Ruger show? That's too cute and cuddly. Well, let's bring out Freakazoid. And Robin's like, that's a terrible idea. He doesn't make sense. But, you know, his supporting cast doesn't make sense, so everybody loves him. Hugbees, everybody.
On a show like Teen Titans Go, though, I feel like he kind of fits a little bit more, because that is very much like a sketch show.
Yeah. I mean, especially because, like, each of their episodes is just a short, essentially, which is... Yeah. I actually think, Kozi, going back to what you said about this could have worked in a modern lens, I think it did some years later. Do you guys know a show called Venture Brothers?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Heard of it, yeah.
It's a little more based on, like, the 60s show Johnny Quest and some other types like that. But it does delve a lot into, like, the sort of superhero genre and super science, super spy kind of stuff. And
Oh, yeah, it's all over the place, but the animation on it's kind of gross looking.
I mean, intentionally so. It's supposed to be like, hey, what if Johnny Quest grew up? But I think outside of... Well, honestly, even they make a ton of just really obscure references to, like, TV, movies, and music, and I think it's just... I think a lot of it ends up just being part of the characters themselves, because, like, some of the ones who make references are just straight-up giant nerds in the show. But I kind of think that's almost what the Adult Swim version of Freakazoid would have been, except you would have had, like, a mask-type character in there to shake things up and go crazy. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should watch Venture Brothers at some point.
I can see its potential.
Yeah.
I just don't think it was executed well, especially for the time it was made.
Yeah, and again, I kind of go back to maybe they should have had a little bit more time to work on it.
Yeah.
Is it weird?
I honestly...
Is it weird to think...
Yes, it's a weird show.
No.
Yes.
Is it weird to think that at the exact same time as this run, there was a masked TV show that ran for 3 seasons, starring Rob Paulson and Tim Curry?
No.
Maybe we need to watch that one.
You know what I just thought of this as? I'm like, oh, this is like a superhero version of, like, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
A little bit.
But he's more aware of what's going on.
Yeah. I mean, he's from the internet, so...
Yeah, like, when you think of Freakazoid, though, you don't really think about, like, the teenage boy.
No.
That's so very, very sad.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I thought Freakazoid was just his own character. I had no idea that that's what he was.
I'm not gonna lie, I thought he was an adult, like, just living at home. When they're like, yeah, he's a teenager, I'm like, oh.
Yeah,
yeah.
He's 16,
17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think they do make fun of that here and there because, like, they really don't like using Dexter that much. I mean, I think they did it because, you know, he's a superhero, therefore he needs a secret identity or something, which is, I think in the modern times is kind of, sometimes they get rid of it a little bit because it's like, well, what's the point?
Oh, I got it. He could have been the kid's version of Deadpool.
I mean, he kind of is a little bit. I'm trying to think.
Yes, but they didn't execute it well.
I'm going to throw out there because Deadpool, I think, was made in like 91 or something. Had his first comic book appearance, something like that. He didn't really get like the fourth wall breaking stuff until later. So I'm almost wondering if maybe there's a coincidence there.
Maybe. Wasn't there something else about Freakazoid and like plagiarism and whatever?
I don't know about Freakazoid.
Hang on, it's on the Wikipedia page.
Was
Give me a
it
second.
Frankenstein's bride wanting her look back?
No, the controversy with Mike Allred's Madman. That was what it is. Sort of like a bit more personality traits, sort of like costume design with like the exclamation point and things. But I guess show creator Tim Bruce was kind enough to tell, I guess, the creator of Mad Men, Mike Allred, that quote. Tim Bruce was kind enough to tell me that Mad Men was a direct inspiration for the show, with comics open and referred to when developing it. But I guess he was never sort of given a credit as for, like, partial inspiration or whatever. But it's another thing.
I mean, I'm sure that I don't mean to, like, put it in this box, but I don't think any of, like, the general audience would know or care.
Probably not.
Like, you get Fanboy, he'd probably have a whole bunch of opinions on that, and then he'd tell you all about them as he's stalking you to Leonard Nimoy's house. But I don't... Yeah, it's difficult because, like, those sort of controversies, I feel like would be, like, one of the first things to come up whenever the show premieres today, because we have so much access to this sort of information. But, yeah, I don't know that I could contribute that to why it didn't work as much.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that's why it didn't work. I'm just saying, I'm like, there was some... This was just another thing that I remembered reading about while I was going through the Wikipedia page that I found interesting.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah. I almost wonder what a third season would look like from this thing. Like, would they want to continue doing the half-hour thing, or they're gonna... I don't know.
I'm not sure. It probably depends on what writers they would bring in and how they would probably try to do the show if they were going to continue it today.
Yeah, I also feel like if they brought it back today, it would benefit from, like, the Teen Titans Go kind of format. Especially with, like, stylizing down the animation.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's certainly ways of making the animation at least easier to produce a little bit today with the digital technology, but yeah. I mean, no, I don't think this is gonna get a like, we talked a little bit about Animaniacs got a revival, so did Tiny Toons. Pinky and the Brain got a pseudo revival because it's now part of Animaniacs again. I don't think Freakazoid's gonna get one. Like,
no.
It won't happen, but I'm almost wondering if maybe I'd be like, I don't want it to happen. Like, I think because just in regard to revivals, I've had other revivals of shows that I'm like, oh, this was so good, why did they cancel it? Where they've come back and it's...
Thundercats.
Well, I wasn't going to say that one. I was actually thinking of, like, Arrested Development and the recent season of Clone High. I think Clone High was a little closer to what they originally did, but, like, Arrested Development was, like, the first 3 seasons, and then they got canceled, and then, like, a decade later, Netflix brought them back, and there was a whole thing of, like, those 2 seasons are just, like, this or that or all this other stuff, and it kind of just comes down to the writers and everybody involved were just in such a, like... They were in a place to make it that can't really be recreated, if that makes sense. Yeah. And then when they tried to essentially recreate what they did before, it was like, well, it's not there anymore. So I'm almost like, yeah, I know they've done Animaniacs, and I actually thought that revival was pretty good. But I'm like, this is such a bizarre... I don't want to call it lightning in a bottle, because clearly people didn't like it that much. But... It is a weird sort of, like, it came out this way because of probably the exact moment that it was made.
I mean, it's got a bit of a cult following now, so...
It encapsulates, like, the time frame and where it was as an industry.
And not just that, but, like, who the creators were when they made it, I feel like. Because,
it's like a perfect snapshot of history.
So then you're trying to recreate a snapshot, and you can't really do that.
Yeah, I feel like they could try to remake it, but it won't be necessarily the same, or they might try to censor it a bit more in a way that might not, might actually hurt it a little bit.
I think they would, because I think if you do try to recreate this with, like, the mentality today, especially because, I don't want to, we just got to admit, all art is some form of a product, and we're all going to try to make money and blah, blah, blah. All that being said, like, if they were to try to recreate this, or revive it, or whatever, what's the number one thing they would do? They would try to hone in on, like, what's the thing everybody remembers about it? It's crazy and zany and all over the place and blah, blah, blah. And that's the only thing they would focus on, not, like... The writers making this were like, what's funny to us right now, and what's going to make us laugh more than anything? Forget the audience. Versus the writers today might be like, what's going to make everybody else laugh because it's crazy? Doesn't matter whether we think it's funny. And I hate to say it, it's usually better if the writer actually thinks something's funny before they, like, try to put it out there. Because otherwise it feels like pandering. And I genuinely feel like if you try to remake this today, it's just Teen Titans Go.
I would say yes, but also I really feel like that depends on, like, the writer's humor as well.
I get that.
Because writers from the 90s would have a very different sense of humor than writers from now.
But
get, like, some Gen Z, like, writers on it. Like, it would be different humor, yes, but I think it could still work very well. Maybe. Especially with the type of humor they have.
True.
Maybe. I don't know. I'd still worry very much that, like, especially as a revival, it would kind of be like, there's gonna be a lot of notes from the network being like, make it. Because, like, the reason this thing failed is because I think they didn't know who they were supposed to be making it for.
Yeah.
Versus now, they're gonna be like, we know the 15 demographics we want you to make this for. So it's really for no one.
I could see it benefiting either direction it went. Either they, like, dumb it down some more to make it more palatable to, like, even younger children, or if they even aged it up and made it more mature. Like, I do think it could see success.
Yeah, I would say had this been an Adult Swim show, this would have done much better.
Oh no, it would have. But I also feel like it would not have been the same show.
No.
And as someone who really likes it, I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't have been as good for me.
Elle is a purist.
You're basically going through what every fan goes through whenever a new adaptation or a reboot is either in development or announced or rumored.
Bro, you don't gotta tell me. I've gone through it 80 times in my life already.
That's so very, very sad.
But I don't know. It's a weird case because, like, you can sort of view anything almost from a modern lens and, like, adjust things. But I don't know. It's really hard to think about it being anything other than what it was when it was made.
No, that's fair. I guess it's just me thinking for what it is. Like, I feel like while it's doing maybe a little too much for me, I feel like for what it could have been, it wasn't doing enough. Or it wasn't allowed to do enough.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Listen, this show would go over well with Skibbity kids, okay?
Oh,
I don't know what a Skibbity is.
It's Gen Alpha kids that basically are iPad kids that grow up on what I mentioned earlier, brain rot, and Skibbity Toilet is like the main YouTube series that's encapsulates that.
I hate to say it. I think if they remake it, Freakazoid's first episode is going to be just him saying Skibbity a bunch of times.
Probably.
I don't want to be like, oh, that's not my Freakazoid, but like, yeah, that's not.
Well, yeah, like, you wouldn't get the humor because
that's
the humor
probably
isn't
why I
aimed
don't.
at you, but
yeah,
that doesn't make it any worse or mean it wouldn't be, like, successful. It just wouldn't be targeted at you, which...
No, it wouldn't.
Elle, I know, as a cis straight white man, might be a little hard, but...
Oh, I just don't get enough stuff. Why is no one making anything for me anymore?
I also feel like when people do, like, reboots, revivals, and remakes, they're not making it for the audience that had originally watched it. They're making it for
a
newer
audience.
Yeah. Because a lot of times, the old audience won't like it, but a new audience will latch onto it and they'll just eat it up.
I'd say this also. At least in regard to, and especially because the internet's become so different than it was in 1995.
True.
I don't know that there's a place for Freakazoid anymore. If it did come out today. Because, genuinely speaking, all this humor still exists. In some form or another. It's just so, like, decentralized away from television and, like, a show like this. Like, literally, I feel like I could just flip through TikTok and find all these sort of jokes in some form or another. So,
guys,
what would be the point of Freakazoid at that point?
He would be a walking meme, because that's the encapsulation of the internet.
But then that's just a TikTok feed.
I mean, pretty much.
Why do you need to make a show to do that?
The thing is that if it's a TikTok feed, then that would be a great success for a show.
Yeah, like, it's been proven that even though people enjoy, like, short form content, like TikToks and all that, people do still prefer long form content over that.
Uh-huh. Me in my hour-long YouTube essay video.
Yeah, no. Really long-form content is what is still super popular on YouTube right now.
So we should make a 3-hour Freakazoid episode, is what you're saying.
Or a movie.
I mean, even his theme song says he wants to make a movie deal, but that was never going to happen.
6 seasons in a movie.
Hey man, that movie's coming out at some point. They're in development. I'm looking forward to it.
Is it actually? I feel like that's been a thing for like years now.
They've confirmed that they are working on the script in that.
It is in development.
Yep.
Yep.
Don't know what it's going to be, but I'll go see it. In any case, I feel like we've probably talked this thing to death at this point. No. I'm actually glad that you guys had like a lively discussion about this. This is one of my favorite shows from childhood, and I really appreciate you guys like watching this with me. I actually almost wish I could have watched it with everybody. That way I could have seen your reactions to it. But,
I really don't think you would have, because we sat there dead-eyed.
Hey man, that probably would have also been funny to some degree.
I kind of just sort of looked at the screen first episode, and my eyes were very, very wide. I'm like, why is he shouting? And then he calmed down a little bit. I was like, okay.
I'm almost wondering, like, if maybe some of the other episodes would have worked for you guys a little better. I really should have put in the final episode of this, because they knew they were getting canceled when they were writing the last episode, so they did decide to end on a big music, like, it essentially ends with the entire cast coming together to sing "We'll Meet Again" to the audience.
Wow.
It's like, even Craig Ferguson's character, Roddy McStew, has to run out crying because he's so sad that it's over. But it was, I'm gonna wrap this into my final thoughts. I still think this is probably one of the weirdest and funniest shows that I've ever watched, and I still love it. I think something about it just hits that right part of my brain that just makes me happy. I don't know. 10 out of 10. It's a yay for me. All right,
That's
rip
fair.
it to shreds.
So, okay, I'll go. I'm gonna be really, really honest. This isn't a nay for me. This is very much like, this is more of a meh, like very middle of the road meh. Like, I have a lot of criticisms about it, but I will say that I feel that this show had a lot of potential. However, it didn't reach its target audience. There were a lot of factors going against it, and despite the fact that me bashing it over the head, I feel like this could have been a serviceable show, maybe if the writing had been a little bit different for me, because your humor and my humor is very, very different.
Oh, yeah.
But I feel like this, with some tweaks, this could have actually really worked. So I'm giving it a meh.
Like I said earlier, I did have, overall, by the end of the show, I did have fun with it, and yeah, it was not my favorite, but it was still enjoyable in a weird way. I give it a light yay.
I'll give it a light yay, I guess. Maybe a meh to light yay. Maybe if I had been in a different mood, this would have hit differently, but maybe I put too much expectations on it. I wish it was, like, skewed a little towards older audiences. I feel like it was just a little too loud, shouty, random RRXD to not be for, like, small children.
I'm gonna also be a meh here. I do see potential for it, but I can acknowledge that potential is very much for an audience that is not me. This was not made for my sense of humor, and baby Kozi knew what she was about and should have listened to her.
Well, I appreciate you guys being so nice to me.
It does have potential.
Oh yeah. Like, I could see if this leaned more superhero and a little less crazy, I feel like I would have liked this a lot more, but it is what it is.
Maybe Bruce Timm had a
It's
point.
not a bad show, just not for us, especially at this age.
Yeah.
It was very much made for the ADHD 7-year-olds that you were.
In the 90s.
Yeah.
You mean like I still am today?
Have a good time now.
Yeah.
Well, I had fun. I'm glad everybody had some fun. Do you guys want to have just a little bit more fun before the end of the year? Or before the end of the month? that we're doing with
I was
this.
gonna say, the end of the year's still a ways off.
Oh,
Just a little more fun.
Just a little
Just like
bit.
one more
Just a
week
little.
of fun and then 3 months of hell.
Honestly, I gotta be real. I actually think the next 3 months are gonna be pretty good. I think overall we planned a couple good things moving forward. But there is, I think we can fit just one more Steven Spielberg Presents thing in here. We were gonna start Spooky Month early with Gargoyles, but we're gonna push that back into actual Spooky Month because next week we are going to do Wacko's Wish, the Steven Spielberg Presents Animaniacs movie. Because why not? Like, you know what? I just want to keep having fun with some of these things. And then we'll move on to Spooky Month. And then everything else we got going on after that, and we'll let you guys know what we got moving forward there. So, yeah, come back to see what Wacko wishes for. And then, yeah, anything else we got going on. Thank you for watching. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for watching, and if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon for notifications. If you enjoy this video, give us a like, and if you haven't already, check out some of our previous episodes, our daily gaming videos, or our parody series Madoka Magically Abridged. See you next time!